Hello, hello. Welcome back to Align Vitality. I am Tanya Engesether, and I'm so glad you're here today. We're wrapping up our series, Aligned at the Root, where functional health meets spiritual truth. And over the past few weeks, we've covered nourishment, rest, movement, and stress, the real foundations of how your body functions and heals. And today we're talking about something that I get asked about a lot, and that is supplements. But before I get into the content, I want to start with a question. Have you ever found yourself standing in a supplement aisle or scrolling through wellness websites at 10 o'clock at night, feeling both hopeful and really overwhelmed? Like, maybe this one will actually do the trick. Maybe this is the thing that finally helps with the energy or the sleep or the brain fog that's been following you around for years. I've been there. More times than I'd like to admit, even as someone who's been in healthcare for nearly 3 decades and is a certified functional health practitioner. Because here's the thing about being a high-capacity woman in midlife. You're usually not buying supplements out of recklessness. You're buying them out of exhaustion, out of hope, and out of the very human desire to feel like yourself again. I want to talk about that today because I think there's more grace and more wisdom available to us in this conversation than maybe the industry usually offers. So today I want to bring some clarity to this topic, not fear, not cynicism, not a product pitch, just clarity and a little truth, both scientific and spiritual, that I hope gives you something solid to stand on. Do you want to recharge your energy, restore your mental clarity, and finally feel like yourself again? Well, you are in the right place. Welcome to Align Vitality, the podcast that offers faith and functional health strategies for high-achieving, health-conscious women in midlife who want to heal from chronic stress, body and spirit. I'm your host, Tanya Engesether, a certified functional health practitioner, Christian life coach, and fellow midlife woman who knows what it's like to look strong on the outside while struggling silently on the inside. Here, we get real about anxiety, brain fog, burnout, hormone shifts, and the hidden toll of chronic stress. And more importantly, we talk about the path to healing. Each week, you'll find practical strategies and faith-fueled encouragement to help you restore your God-given energy, calm your nervous system, and reclaim peace in this season of life. If you're ready to stop pushing through and start thriving in the abundant life you were created for, let's get after it. This is Align Vitality. There is no shortage of supplements being marketed to midlife women. For energy, for sleep, for stress, for hormones, for gut health, metabolism, mental clarity, for weight management, for libido, for mood, and honestly, some of them have a real place. I use supplements myself, and I recommend them to women I work with in functional health coaching. They are genuinely part of a holistic practice. But here's where the conversation gets important. Supplements are often misunderstood, and when they're misunderstood, they lead to frustration and a whole lot of wasted money. Because they are called supplements for a reason. They are meant to supplement, to support, to fill in the gaps, not to replace the foundations of health. And when we forget that, or when we're so depleted that we skip straight to the bottle hoping it fixes the problem, we end up disappointed. I've watched this happen in clients, in myself, in my spouse. There was a season in my life not that long ago when I was running hard, giving everything to work, my leadership role, the people around me, and I was supplementing well by most standards, and I still felt terrible because what I actually needed wasn't more support in the form of supplements. What I needed was to stop living at a pace that no supplement on earth was designed to compensate for. That's the conversation or part of it that I want to have today. As a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, we use a clinical framework called the DRESS protocol. Now, DRESS is trademarked by FDN, and it stands for Diet, Rest, Exercise, Stress Reduction, and Supplementation. And I want you to notice something about that framework. Supplementation is the last letter in the protocol. That's not an accident. That ordering is completely intentional. It reflects a foundational truth about how healing actually works in the body. You build the foundations first, and then you layer in targeted support. Now, within that framework, supplements absolutely have a meaningful role. From a functional health, holistic health perspective, they might help fill in nutrient gaps that food alone isn't and can't provide. They might support key biochemical pathways or reduce chronic low-grade inflammation. They might support the body's detoxification process or calm and regulate the nervous system. They might improve digestion and gut function. They might modulate the stress response. And some common examples that come up frequently are magnesium, one of the most depleted minerals in chronically stressed adults. Magnesium may support relaxation, muscle tension, sleep quality, and nervous system regulation. Omega-3 fatty acids support inflammation balance, mood stability, and brain health, particularly important in midlife as our cognitive changes and mood shifts become more noticeable. And vitamin D, this is a big one, especially for those of us up here in the North Country. Vitamin D is essential for immune function, mood regulation, and hormone health. Many women are deficient and they don't know it, and standard labs don't often catch it because the reference ranges are set fairly low. Minerals and electrolytes, these are really important and often overlooked. They support hydration, energy production, and stress resilience at the cellular level. Digestive supports and probiotics can support gut function and the gut-brain connection, though this is highly individualized and works best when you understand what's actually going on in the gut first, which is something we talk about in talking about some of the functional lab tests that we like to do to look at our intestinal health. So this is not a conversation about supplements being bad or unnecessary, not at all. This is a conversation about understanding their role and being honest about what that role is and is not. Now, this is where so many people get frustrated. They try the supplement, the protocol, the powder, the adaptogen, the thing that 3 different people recommend in 3 different Facebook groups, and sometimes they feel a little better for a while, but then they plateau, or the effect is limited, or they realize honestly that it didn't really change anything at all at the root level. And that's because you cannot supplement your way out of a body that is undernourished, overstressed, underrested, dysregulated, and running on caffeine and cortisol, ignoring its own most basic needs. Supplements can support a healing process, but they usually cannot rescue a body from the patterns that are still depleting it. And here's the distinction I really want you to hear. A lot of women aren't looking for supplementation, they're looking for a rescue. They're hoping that one product or one protocol will make up for chronic depletion, for years of pushing through, for poor sleep, for unmanaged stress, for foundational habits that haven't really been in place. And I say that with so much compassion because I understand why. When you are a woman who has spent years taking care of everyone and everything around you, when you're used to being the strong one, the reliable one, the one who gets it all figured out, it's incredibly appealing to think that there might be one thing you could add that would finally make you feel okay again. But that's not really a supplement problem. That's a deeper pattern. And it's one that I think a lot of us know more intimately than we'd like to admit. The hope that if we just find the right external thing, the right product, the right routine, the right fix, that we won't have to face what's actually going on underneath. I've been sitting with that idea a lot lately because it shows up in our health and it shows up in so many other areas of our lives too. but we'll come back to that. Now, this conversation we're having becomes especially important in midlife, and I want to be specific about why. Midlife is often the season when women begin to feel the cumulative effects of years of stress, inconsistent nourishment, inadequate sleep, and chronic overfunctioning. It is also, for many women, a season of significant hormonal transition. And what that means practically is that the body often becomes less forgiving than it was in your earlier years. What you could push through in your 20s and 30s may not and will not work the same at 45 or 50 and beyond. Blood sugar swings might feel more pronounced. Stress may disrupt your sleep more significantly. Inflammation may take longer to resolve. Recovery from a hard workout or from a stressful work week from a late night might require more intention. And your nutrient demands may genuinely shift. None of that means your body's broken. It means your body is communicating something important. And this season is actually an invitation to listen more carefully than you have before. Support can absolutely be part of the answer, but support works best when it's supporting something solid. And in midlife especially, more than ever, those foundations of health really matter. Nourishment, rest, movement, stress regulation, and then support in that order. Not because you have to be perfect, but because that is how the body was designed to heal. Now, I want to go a level deeper because this pattern we've been talking about doesn't just show up in our supplement cabinets. We do something very similar in our spiritual lives, in our emotional lives, in the way we lead and the way that we live. When we are depleted, really depleted, we reach for things. We reach for achievement, productivity, control, busyness, approval, distraction. Even self-improvement can become a substitute when what we really need is rest in God. And some of those things have genuine value in the right place, just like supplements do, but they can become a problem. They start quietly damaging us when we expect them to do what only God can do. We look for quick forms of relief, external fixes, things we can add or manage or accomplish that might finally make us feel okay or enough. And I think this is one of the most honest things I can say to you. That instinct, the reach for rescue instead of returning to the source, is one of the most human things about us. It's not weakness, it's exhaustion. But Jesus is not a supplement. He is not an add-on to an otherwise self-sustaining life. John chapter 15 verse 5 says, "I am the vine, you are the branches. Apart from me, you can do nothing." That's a strong statement. He's not presenting himself as something helpful you might consider adding to your routine. He is presenting himself as the very source of life. And Colossians chapter 2 verse 8 offers this warning: "See to it that no one takes you captive through hollow and deceptive philosophy." In other words, don't let substitutes replace truth. Don't build your life, your health, your peace, your strength on things that cannot ultimately sustain you. That's such an important word for women who are used to piecing together their own strength, who are used to being capable, who have spent years figuring it out. Because the invitation in all of this is not to add more. It's to return to what actually sustains you. Here's the reframe I want to offer you today, and I want you to really sit with this. Support is good. Support is wise, and support can be part of healing, but support only works well when it's connected to the right source and built on the right foundation. That is true physically, and it is true spiritually. Physically, it looks like this. You can take magnesium and still need better sleep habits. You can take omega-3s and still need to reduce chronic stress. You can take digestive support and still need to slow down enough for your nervous system to actually let your body digest. Spiritually, it looks like this. You can listen to encouraging content and still need time with God. You can read a devotion and still need surrender. You can know truth intellectually and still be living from striving instead of dependence on Him. Support matters, but source matters more. So, how do you actually approach this with wisdom instead of confusion? Before you add anything new, I want you to ask yourself these questions honestly. What problem am I actually trying to solve? Get specific. Is it energy, sleep, mood, inflammation, digestion? The more specific you are, the better equipped you'll be to know whether a supplement is even the right tool or whether something foundational needs to come first. Next question. Have I supported the basics? Not perfectly, not obsessively, but meaningfully. Am I eating enough, especially protein? Am I getting any kind of quality sleep? Am I moving my body in a way that creates flow and energy rather than more stress? Am I doing anything intentional around stress regulation? Question number 3. Am I looking for support or a shortcut? This is an honest question, and it takes courage to answer it truthfully. Is this helping me build health, or is it helping me avoid what actually needs attention? And finally, spiritually, what am I relying on for peace right now? What am I reaching for instead of returning to God? These are not intended to be condemning, judgmental questions. They are clarifying questions. And sometimes the most healing thing we can receive is clarity. So this week, before you search for a new supplement, I want to invite you to sit with this instead. Am I eating enough real, nourishing food consistently? Am I sleeping in a way that supports repair, or am I just collapsing and calling it rest? Am I moving in a way that actually supports my body, not punishes it? Am I doing anything, even small things, to regulate my nervous system daily? Am I using supplements as wise support or expecting them to rescue me from a pattern I haven't addressed? And spiritually, what am I relying on for peace that isn't actually the source of it? What am I reaching for to cope instead of returning to God? Is Jesus central to how I'm living this week, or is He something I add in when everything else is already failed, or something I'm leaving at the end of my to-do list? These aren't questions to shame you. They're questions to ground you. And sometimes getting grounded is the most productive thing you can do for yourself. If you've been searching for the next solution, the next supplement, the next protocol, the next thing that might finally make you feel like yourself again, I want to offer this gently. You might not need something more complicated. You might need something more foundational. Not in a rigid way, not in a shaming way, but in a grounding way. Healing often doesn't begin when we add more. It begins when we come back to what actually sustains us, in the body and in the soul. God, thank you for the tools that can support our health, the wisdom in research, the nutrients in food, the supplements that can genuinely help fill in gaps. But even more than that, thank you for being the true source of life. Not just an add-on, not a last resort, the source. Help us to recognize the places where we've been reaching for rescue from a bottle, from a routine, from our own effort, when what we really actually needed was to return to you. Give us wisdom to care for these bodies that you created. Give us humility to build on what is foundational, and give us rest in knowing that you are more than enough. In Jesus' name, amen. Friends, supplement can support your body, but they were never meant to replace the foundations of health. And the same is true in your life. You don't need to keep chasing more. You may simply need to come back to what actually sustains you. Until next time, lead well, live well, and be well. Thank you so much for joining me today, my friend. If today's episode encouraged or blessed you, would you please take a minute to leave a rating and written review on Apple Podcast? It means the world to me, and it helps more women like you discover this message of hope and healing. If you're ready to take the next step in your functional health journey, join my interest list at alignvitalityhealth.com. And remember, this podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not intended to be medical advice, nor is it intended to diagnose or treat disease. Please consult your healthcare provider before making changes to your health. Until next time, I'm Tanya Engesether, reminding you that healing is possible and your best season is still ahead.